Welcome to another episode of SAMED Soundcheck, where we explore the people, ideas, and innovations shaping the South African medical technology industry. Today, I want to start with a reality check. According to Statistics South Africa, 4.7 million young South Africans between the ages of 15 and 34 are currently unemployed, while more than 10 million are outside the labor force altogether. The South African unemployment rate now stands at 45.8%. Behind those numbers are ambitions waiting to be realized, skills waiting to be developed, and potential waiting for an opportunity. So, what happens when organizations choose to invest in young people? What becomes possible when opportunity is matched with mentorship, trust, and support? In this Youth Month special, we're moving beyond the statistics and focusing on solutions. Joining me today are Tanya Vogt, SAMED's Executive Officer, Tracy Munsami, the Chairperson of SAMED's Diversity and Inclusion Committee, and Kaise Mabuza, a Yes Youth alumni and current SAMED learnership participant. Welcome, everyone. I think we'll get straight into it. Let's start with the big picture. We often hear youth unemployment described as a societal challenge. But Tracy, why should this matter to businesses operating in the medtech sector?
So I think there's, hi, thank you so much. I'm really excited to be here. So I think there are levels as to why it's important. But if we just take the big picture around what research has shown us around what the employment of youth does to an industry. So, if we just take away all of the other noise and say what is best for growth, what is best for industry, and you will find that there's a wealth of data that supports the inclusion of younger people and diversity into a workforce enables innovation and longevity of the business. Why is it important for MedTech? Because I think MedTech has been perhaps slow to start on the journey of diversification, and so I think that adding the youth to it creates an acceleration of this process and the journey that we need to be on. I also think that globally, healthcare and health products is the fastest growing industry. And therefore, if we want to put our efforts where there is growth, it makes sense to include youth in a sector that is growing. Because what would be the point of including youth in a sector that is ceasing to exist?
I love that. Tanya, I'd love to bring you in here. Do you see youth development as a social responsibility, a business imperative, or both?
Well, from a SAMED perspective, we see it as a social responsibility, but also a business imperative and an economic imperative. If we don't take the time and make the effort and invest in our youth, we're not going to grow our economy. We're not going to grow our sector. How can the medtech sector be at the forefront of innovation if we don't have young minds, young hearts, and young people in the sector?
Spot on. Kaise, you are sitting on the other side of this conversation. When you hear statistics like 45.8% youth unemployment, what goes through your mind?
Thank you for having me. Well, the first thing that comes to my mind is we could do a lot better as a country. It's not bad, yes, but we could do a lot better. We can end the unemployment, the youth specifically, because we need young minds, we need fresh minds, we need new people who bring fresh ideas, and that 40% sitting with qualifications, they could be doing a lot and bringing the change to our country.
Nomti, if I can jump in there, what I've noticed working with Kaise over the last 3 weeks, Kaise has actually stepped up and filled a gap in SAMED that wasn't there before. And I have been astounded by her quickness. And I think this comes from a youth that is so technologically comfortable with the digital world that she's doing something that takes me 5 minutes to do. She's doing it in 2 minutes or less. It's almost mind-boggling. Now, if we don't tap into that as a sector, as a workplace, we're going to be left behind. The way Tracy and I do things, forgive me, Tracy, I'm not too sure how old you are, but you might be even younger than I am. But if we think that our generation can continue to do things the way that we're doing them and still succeed and grow and innovate, we need the youth, let me tell you, otherwise we're going to be left behind.
That's a very interesting response. And I think it leads me to asking Tracy then, a key question. I often hear that organizations want experienced people, but young people can't gain the experience without first being given the opportunity. So how do we break that cycle?
So I think that there are many solutions. So how do you break the cycle is about, in my view, it's value proposition. So the business needs to have a value proposition for the young people of today, and the young people of today need to have a value proposition for the business. So often there's an expectation, I'm going to study and I'm going to be employed. And I think we found over time that doesn't, having a qualification is not resulting in a job. Right. And so I think the first thing that you have to ask yourselves, how do we make youth employable? And one of those ways is to gain experience. So talking to some of the initiatives with organizations such as Yes for Youth, that looks to place youth in mid-tech businesses in order for them to gain that experience. But it goes beyond that, and it goes into some of the initiatives that the, if I may talk now to the Diversity and Inclusion Committee, that looks at the skills mismatch. So it talks to, one of the things that the committee looks at is as a nation, South Africa is actually producing graduates at a rapid rate. What we're not doing is employing them in the fields that we need to. And so there's a, we don't have all the information for it, but there's a sense that the qualifications are not necessarily talking to the vacancies that are available. So one of the things that we want to do is bridge that gap between what skills are available and what jobs there are to be held, and to bridge the gap between those two. In addition to that, we spend a fair amount of time with youth agencies and young people such as you that allow us to understand better the voice of the youth. The new generation, I don't want to box you guys into anything, but think differently and act differently and have different needs and wants in the organization. And so and organizations need to adapt to that. The things that will draw, let's say, Tanya and I to an organization will not be the same thing that will appeal to you. And I think those are the things that need to happen. And finally, there's a broader conversation around qualification and how you find work. And I think that one of the things that we're starting to see is what you studied is not necessarily how you fill a job in the workforce. Mm-hmm. I mean, I know of people with that have done BScs, but they work for an attorney because they deal then with patent laws around medical devices. And I think that it's about you helping youth understand the spaces that they could fill, because the reality of it is take into account the social compact that we deal with, not every youth in South Africa has the opportunity to sit around the dinner tables that a lot of us do. They don't have the conversation, they don't have mentorship, they don't have sponsorship. We often feel that providing a bursary to a young person is enough, but it's not enough if we don't guide them and give them the tools around how you attend an interview and how to prepare a CV. And those are the kind of tools and engagement we try as the committee to find solutions for youth. Sorry for my long-winded answer, Kelly. I love this.
No, this is perfect. And Tanya, I think this is an opportunity where I'd love to hear from you. What motivated SAMED to become part of the solution through initiatives such as the YES program and now learnership opportunities?
Well, I think it's tone from the top, but it's also sort of I'm going to use the word pressure from the sides. And SAMED's had a transformation committee for many years, and it's now called the Diversity and Inclusion Committee. But to be frank, I don't think it ever had the backing, the financial budget that it was deserving of, until the leadership in the organization at a board level decided that this was something that we were going to really embrace and implement and live. And it wasn't just going to be an initiative that SAMED was going to push, but something that SAMED was going to participate in. And we didn't think that we, as a relatively small, not-for-gain entity, needed to get involved in youth development. But through that leadership, it was realized that if you're not going to participate, how can you expect your members to want to participate? And how will you understand the growing pains and the challenges, but also the amazing success and experience of being involved if you don't do it yourself? So we made a conscious decision to get involved. We signed up with the Yes for the Youth Employment Services initiative. We took on a Yes for Youth, and that was DECAPO 2 years back. We were all very afraid and nervous, and we didn't quite know how that would pan out, and would we cope? And we did. And DECAPO is now full-time employed at a SAMED member, and when I find out and ask about him, and sometimes I even see him, he is thriving. So we decided to continue, and we got Kayise on board. And Kayise has been such an amazing success and addition to our team that we've now, in her second year with us, taken her on as a learner. So I think it's about taking the plunge. You don't have to be a large multinational that needs to improve your BBBE scores. There has to be a will and a desire. And honestly, I can say that SAMED as an organization is much the better for it.
Here. I think we can cut the podcast there. No, I'm kidding. That was great, Tanya. And I really appreciate that. So, guys, maybe let me pan to you now. Let's talk about your journey. Take us back to your first day at SAMED. What were your expectations and what were you hoping this opportunity might lead to?
Well, the first thing I know, I got excited when I got that call. But it's been great. When I joined SAMED through the YES program, my biggest hope was honestly to gain meaningful work experience and to start building a career path. I mean, I had just graduated and my mind was just narrow and focused on what I had studied. But more than anything, I didn't expect the level of exposure and the trust that I received from SAMED with the great mentorship and also the expectation to sharpen my skills. I always thought that I'll just apply my basic knowledge. But then the way SAMED was so resourceful, was so supportive, it was broader than that. And it gave me an insight into an industry that I wasn't even previously familiar with, which was a great thing for me because now I know more than what I thought I know. And yes, I wasn't previously familiar, as I said, but it showed me how the impact youth opportunities like this can have when organizations literally just intentionally invest in people.
I love that.
Domti, may I jump in? And this is maybe off script. You have been Kayise's leader while she was a youth at SAMED, and now although I'm sharing some of that role, you have primarily been her leader and her mentor. Can you share with us what that experience has been like for you?
I see what you did there, hey? Flip the script on me. I love this. Sure.
And maybe what advice would you give to members of SAMED who haven't gone down this path? What would you say to them? These are some of the things to look out for, and this is how you navigate it, but do it anyway.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's been an absolute joyride. Emotionally has been quite a roller coaster because we've had to probably spend the first 6 months really getting to know each other and demystifying what people talk about Gen Z and what Gen Z comes with when they join an organization. I completely disagree. This is a character building, character shaping journey that only a leader can be able to assist and guide. And in the same way, Kaisa has been reverse mentoring me. She's been teaching me things that I haven't really thought about, because you come in set in your ways from previous work experiences, and she's bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, and wants to do things quickly and more efficiently. And I have to create a safe space to be able to allow her to do that. So that for me was a challenge, but a great challenge because it was refreshing. It was lovely to also see how she picks up on new skills, specifically when it comes to her creative part of her brain. As much as she downplays it, she's really good when it comes to creative elements. She's a great writer, and when she just really sits and applies herself, I could really say the person I interviewed versus the person that she is today, absolutely chalk and cheese. She really, really, it makes me proud. And my advice to anyone that is going to dive deep into this, do it with both feet in. You can't do it half-hearted. This is more than a human being experience, but a growth and I don't know, more like an investment, not just to self, but to a person that is also leading and contributing to a household and a community.
And I think also what learnerships and giving a youth work experience opportunity gives to them is they know the theory, but when they come into a work experience, they learn things like analytical skills, critical thinking, problem solving, dealing with people. And those skills are so vital in terms of growth and development. And I'm just thinking about how, at the beginning, you would give Kaise all the content and she would literally kind of just put it together in terms of the newsletter. Whereas now she's literally taking that content and writing it herself and putting it into a format that is concise, that's clear, that's relevant. Would you agree with me, Kayise? If you had to think back to those simple tasks that you did in the very beginning to what you're doing now, and you've only learned that through that engagement with someone and being able to apply that critical thinking to what you're doing.
Yeah, totally agree. Yes.
I like that. So I'm probably going to jump around a little bit with some questions, but I think some of them you've answered and touched on here and there. So Tracy, from a transformation and inclusion perspectives, why are programs like this so important? So how do we move beyond policy into real impact?
So I think that for a long time, transformation was a dirty word, and it was seen to be a tick box exercise. And for as long as it is seen to be that, it will always deliver what I would call your surface level value. So it will deliver the numbers, it will get you across the line from an employment equity perspective, and perhaps even from a triple BE perspective. But it's the embedding and entrenching that this is how business is done that gives real value, right? So I think that the way to do this is to completely embed the principle and the philosophy of the development of youth into how your business operates, as opposed to it being a program that is run on the side. So it means that it takes all of that into account in terms of how you develop policies, how you employ people, how you train, how you create mentorship within the business, all of those things. So my view is that it was always there. It just wasn't successful because the ecosystem to support it wasn't there. And I think what we've gotten better at now is getting the ecosystem right so that young people can thrive within the organization. I think also for it to be truly meaningful, it goes beyond employment into developing a career. And now this is not just on the business. The youth is also responsible for knowing and understanding what they want to do. What are the things that engage them on a level beyond just a salary? So how do I, what is the thing that I want to do besides just, not just earning my salary? How do I want to engage with this business? So I think that the development plan and understanding the pathway, understanding where do I want to be in this organization in 5 years, in 10 years? If we can't see that and we don't make it explicit, then it's unlikely our people are going to stay. And what we're finding, again, from research is that people are motivated by a lot more than just salary. It's working hours, it's flexibility, it's the ability to work at the time that your brain is most active. And those are the things that I think will embed and create more value beyond just employing for the sake of employing, filling up your numbers. At the end of that period, you leave and you get a new batch of people joining.
I think what I appreciate there is also part of the word transformation, or the definition of it also speaks to belonging, and guys, if you look back now, what have been some of the most valuable lessons that you've learned during your time at SAMED? And maybe was there even a moment when you realized, actually, I belong here and I can do this?
Yes, definitely. Many of those moments. But one of the valuable ones has been that growth actually happens outside of your comfort zone. That's one takeaway that I have from SAMED. And there were responsibilities that I took on that initially felt intimidating at first, but each challenge taught me something new. And now I can confidently say those responsibilities, it's just a snap of a finger and I'm good at it. So yeah, I've learned the importance of being proactive. I can now ask questions. I'm open to feedback. I can actually take initiative now. So those are things that helped me to be who I am today compared to the past 12 months. So 12 months plus, and I'm still growing, and I'm very grateful for that because I'm still open to learning, the willingness to learn. Each and every day is a new day to grasp something.
And
May I add something here? I think also when you take on a youth, you've got to allow them space and opportunity to speak and to participate. And sometimes that requires a little bit of creative thinking about how you do that. Because traditionally, well, you see, there I'm talking like a traditionalist, aren't I? But think of yourself as a brand new youth coming into a large organization. It can be quite intimidating. And unless you're a very extroverted, confident person, you might just sit back and be quiet and just, watch and do. Yet there may be so much inside of you that if you were given that opportunity and that space and that place, that platform, that you could add even greater value. And I think that would be, for me, one of the lessons. Allow your youth to have a voice, to participate, and it's not just in the usual ways. At SAMED, we have a weekly team meeting where each of us has a responsibility to share something with each other. And it can be anything. It can be a poem. It can be today we got a poem from Kayise. It could be a video. It could be a lesson that they've learned. Absolutely anything that you want to share that is uplifting and supportive of the team. But also, we had a little team building not so long ago, and we played 60 seconds. And for me, that was so wonderful because I suddenly saw Kayise in a role that I'd never imagined. And this lovely young lady became a drama queen, an actress. And here she was, all quiet and petite and, behind the scenes. But that made me realize, hang on, actually, there's so much more to this person. And we need to draw this out because, she's got these really amazing characteristics and talents that we didn't see before. And that came out in a time of play. So create those opportunities for your youth.
I think while we're there, Tanya, what gave you the confidence to entrust Kayise with those additional responsibilities? Because you said, she's taken on some responsibilities in the secretariat role. So what signals maybe told you she was ready?
Oh, when I have a problem that I need to solve, I tend to not sleep very well. I wake up at 2, 3 in the morning, and then it's going round and round and round in my head. But sometimes I almost do think that there's like, what's that story about when you wake up in the morning and you've got sleep in your eyes, and it was a fairy or something that came along and it was magic dust. And it was during one of those early mornings that I had this aha moment, and Linda had resigned, and I thought, oh my goodness, what are we going to do? But Kayise had just started on a business administration course. And I thought to myself, but what she's learning are the building blocks to a lot of what Linda did and what that role is. And so isn't this a perfect opportunity for her to implement and practice what she's learning in theory? And I think that she can do it. And she's proving to me that she can. In fact, beyond my expectations. So I guess sometimes it's a little bit of magic a little bit of reality. It's a bit of a few things that one then puts together. Maybe even a little bit of luck. But yeah, again, I think where there's a will, there's a way. Thinking out the box is also important. Not trying to put people into particular boxes and thinking that's all they can do. Giving them an opportunity to try other things and giving them an opportunity to make mistakes is important, especially for a young person. Because if I remember, you know, and I think that's one of the things that we sometimes don't even give ourselves, is that opportunity to go out on a limb, make a mistake, but then learn from it. Because oftentimes that's where your largest learning experiences are.
You've taken the words out of my mouth. And I think for me, that is probably as the Gen Z would say, the T that would stay with me. And I want us to maybe unpack one question to all three of you, which is, what is the role that mentorship has played in your careers, and why does it matter for young professionals entering the workplace? Tracy, I'll start with you, then we'll lead into Tanya, and lastly, Kaise.
Thank you. So this is something so close to my heart. 28 years ago, I actually started at Bayer as a learner. And so, you know, I can tell you that one of the most important things is having a leader that believes in you as much as you believe in yourself. And one of the things that the opportunity that you get, I think that if as leaders we could give one opportunity to the youth of today, is allow them to fail fast and fail safely. It's one of the most important gifts you can give to someone, because it's easy to track success, because success is the least amount of learning comes out of success. And your greatest amount of learning comes when you do something that you're uncomfortable with, you haven't done before. It's the journey of learning and the journey of failing that actually creates belonging and an embeddedness where you want to stay there, you want to get it right. So what my leaders did is gave me that opportunity, the opportunity to fail fast. They trusted me. And then me in turn felt like this was home and I belong here, because they treated me like they wanted me to stay. And I think that that's such an important thing. The second thing, if I can add, is, I think Kanyisa alluded to it earlier, is I wish somebody encouraged me to find my voice early, quickly, and use it. Often we wait to be the last person in the room to speak, because we believe that we'll only fill in the spaces of what everybody else has said, and then we question ourselves and say, oh, you know, is it really important? Should I be saying that? Somebody else has got something far more important to say. The advice I would give to myself is speak up, speak earlier. Because your voice is important and it matters. And I think that for as long as leaders create those spaces, we'll find that youth moves from being a transformation agenda into becoming an economic agenda. That's all.
Love it. Tanya.
I agree with a lot of what Tracy said, but I think what I really remember from someone who was an amazing mentor was that I had to eat humble pie. I came out of, you know, doing a university degree, an honors degree, and I thought that I was probably better than I actually was. And when I did my first draft, you know, of minutes for this person, oh my God, it came back and there were red lines through it, left, right, and center. And I'm so grateful that I experienced that. I'm so grateful that that, but I think the way in which that person pointed out my errors was equally as important as pointing them out. And it was done in a way that this is about wanting you to be better. But I do think that it's also one of my biggest learnings has been to not take things personally. And I'm quite a sensitive person, and that's been really challenging for me. But the leaders that stand out the most for me have been the ones who have made me see that I can get that inner recognition and reward without having to have it from outside all the time. And I grow more when I realize that I am in control of my own emotions and of my sensitivities. And that what happens around me is it's important, but it's not the be all and end all. That I do have the courage, the strength, the resilience within myself. And I love that what Tracy said about finding your voice. That's so important. Being able to say, I need help. I'm not too sure how to do this, or even I've messed up. And I want to know how to do it differently or better. Or even, actually, I think I've done a great job. Did you see that? So it's those different voices actually that are quite important. And even, I have a better idea. Can I bounce it off you? So our voice is incredibly important and we need to use it. But then equally, we need a sounding board. We need that space where others are listening to us.
I appreciate that. It takes a lot of vulnerability, I think, to be able to reflect and see those areas. Thanks, Tanya. Casey?
For me, I would say the one thing that I would share is don't underestimate small beginnings. For me, my opportunity here at SALMED, it opened doors that I didn't expect. I came in here shy, scared, worried, and I think I got more worried when I saw an industry outside of SALMED offices. I said, whoa, okay, this is huge. And I'm just a small girl in that space. But I grew. I took the opportunity and I grew and I stayed curious. I kept on developing myself. So a message I would send out there to youth entering the workspace is don't let rejection or doubt or outside noise make you question your value. You are greater than you think. And sometimes growth starts with just one organization taking a chance on you. So also to organizations listening to these, I think open up that space for the youth. Give the youth the mic, let them speak, let them share. It has a great impact. And when the opportunity comes, show up fully. Because opportunities are important, but what you do with them matters just as much.
That was quite valuable. So for organizations listening today who want to support youth development but don't know where to start, what's one practical step they can take starting today? Tracy, and then I'll lead through to Tanya.
Okay. Look, I think one practical step is understand what organizations and what assistance is in your ecosystem. So I think just a simple search or a Google search around either Yes for Youth or tools such as Skills Quest, or just understand your ecosystem. You don't have to do it alone. And as a small business, sometimes it's very daunting and you think, I don't have the budget, or I don't have the space, I can't completely sponsor someone. So just look at your ecosystem. And I know you said one thing, but the other thing is understand where you need someone. So understand your own business and understand the gap where you need someone, because then you put a person in the right place, as opposed to bringing someone into the organization and they don't quite know what to do with themselves. So I think look inwardly, see where your gaps are, look externally. There's a number of agencies, colleges, funds, your CETAs and things that have funding and opportunities available that you can tap into, and you don't have to do this by yourself. Provide the ecosystem, and there's usually someone else that wants to help you.
Yeah.
I think I'd go one step further and not just look for the gap, but create the gap. If you want to support youth development, look and identify where you can put a youth. So there doesn't have to be a gap right now. If you look at the roles, the requirements within the organization, is there an area that can be better utilized by a youth? And you can shift some of those responsibilities from an individual and move that person elsewhere or upwards to create that opportunity for a youth. And reach out to Kayise, SAMED members. If you're not sure about the youth employment services, send Kayise an email. She's got the contacts at Yes. She'll put you in touch with them. There are other initiatives out there. We have some associate SAMED members that are in the learnership business. That's what they do. So, we have the network. We have the contacts. If you want to support youth development, reach out to Kayise and she'll send you those details, those contacts. And, just takes one step.
I agree. And I think to add to that, the next step is get onto our Yes Youth alumni portal. It's right over here, right here. Use the details. You've got the password. We're more than happy. Upload that CV if you are an intern that is nearing the end of your program and you still want to, be employed within the medtech sector. This is an opportunity. This is a platform where medtech companies are recruiting from. Please do. And of course, echo exactly what Tanya said, reach out to Kayise. And so if today's discussion really has sparked ideas or challenged your thinking, I encourage you to join us this coming Wednesday, which will be the 24th of June. So it depends when you're listening to this, and continue the conversation. We've got a forum coming up. And it's an opportunity to hear what are we doing in this space. We'll have a presentation from Transcend Corporate Advisors speaking about how to practically incorporate youth in improving BBBE scores across relevant pillars. We will then also have the Nelson Mandela Children's Hospital providing an overview of the services they offer, how members can get involved to also make sure that healthcare is accessible to previously disadvantaged youth and children, and make sure that patient care really, really is equitable and affordable for children that don't have these opportunities. There's a lot more that's happening in the transformational space. So I really encourage our listeners, get involved, be part of the conversation. And as we wrap up, I'd like each of you to leave our listeners with one final message. Kayise? what would you like to say to a young person who is still waiting for their opportunity, that first opportunity even?
I'll say step into that area. Like go in there, full force, be confident. You got this, and you're doing great. Just have the ability and willingness to learn, take feedback, take your mistakes, but then make sure that you don't repeat them twice or three times, but make it useful and enjoy the journey.
I love that. That's great. And Tracy, what message would you share with industry leaders about creating opportunities for youth? And a little birdie told me that we've got our transformation and diversity and inclusion policy just, steaming, waiting to be launched. Is this a real thing?
Percolating.
Mm.
So it's ready to be summarized and launched. And I think that the thought process behind it is that transformation in any shape or form requires a framework, a backbone. It requires something that gives it structure. So what we've aimed with the transformation policy is to put that into an easy, condensed form of what is SAMED's approach? Why have we done it? How are we going to do it? What are those legislations and the regulatory premises that we rely on to draw this policy? Because the policy guides how we implement, and there'll be various initiatives, but the policy is a great start, and I think it would be a great start for any medtech business to understand and maybe take a leaf out of, literally and figuratively, out of that book, because it's often, again, smaller businesses perhaps don't have the resources or the time to develop a fully fledged policy. And I think it gives you some insights into how the leadership of SAMED has the approach that we've taken to embed the principle of diversity and inclusion.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. And I'm just recalling the excitement and momentous occasion once we had voted in the new SAMED board. Tanya, you had been ecstatic to say the first 40 years of SAMED, we have got more women than men. So for me, that also speaks to really how transformation is being lived out in SAMED. So I really commend and congratulate SAMED for that. And Tanya, yes, what would you say to organizations considering investing in youth development programs?
I think don't make assumptions that that youth can't do and bring huge value to your organization. I used to scoff at the idea that you take on a youth and they really are going to make your life easier. I used to think, oh, it's going to take so much of my time to train and mentor, and yet they are another set of hands. And, once you do spend the time, because it does take time, it does take energy, it takes concerted effort to spend time with the youth, to go through things carefully, to coach them, to listen to them. But at the end of the day, you can hand over so much more to them, and you can then move on to bigger and better things. So it really is a win-win for all. And I think just go for it. Go for it. You'll be pleasantly surprised, those of you who've never taken on a youth.
Thank you, Tanya. Thanks, Tracy, and thanks, Kaisi, for sharing your insights, experiences, and perspectives today. I think it's clear that today's conversation reminds us that youth development is about far more than creating jobs. It's about creating confidence, creating leaders, and about creating opportunities that really change lives. And perhaps, maybe most importantly, it's about recognizing potential before experience exists. When organizations invest in young people, they don't just strengthen individual careers, they strengthen businesses, industries, communities, and ultimately our country's future. To our listeners, thank you for joining us for the special Youth Month edition. And we hope that you will definitely join the conversation at our next Diversity and Inclusion Forum on the 24th of June. Until next time, stay informed, stay engaged, and continue advancing patient care through MedTech. I'm Nomti Mnisi, and this is the SAMED Soundcheck.